To answer this question, we need to find the size of the missing angle in our triangle, theta. Our first step in this and all trigonometry problems is to label the sides of our triangle. So if we pop over to the third tab, we can put an H in the first box because that's the hypotenuse, the longest side of our triangle, and also it's opposite to the right angle in the triangle. Then we can put an O in the left-hand box because that side is opposite to the angle that we're using in this particular question. And finally an A in the bottom box because that side is adjacent to the angle that we're using in the question. So now that we've filled in our side values, we can figure out what formula we're going to use. If we have a look at our triangle, we can see that there's information next to the H on the hypotenuse side, which is the length 85, and next to the O on the opposite side, which is the length 13. Now the fact that these two sides have information next to them tells us that these are the two sides we're going to use in this question. So what we need is a trigonometry formula that has O and H in it. Up here in the top right hand corner, I've got quick representations of the three trigonometry formulas. Sine theta equals opposite over hypotenuse, cos theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse, and tan theta equals opposite over adjacent. So what we want to do is choose one of those three formulas that has opposite and hypotenuse in it. And that's obviously going to be the sine formula because the other two do not have both opposite and hypotenuse in them. So our next step is to fill that sine formula in its general form into these answer boxes. So we'll put a sine in the first box, then a bracket, theta bracket in the second box, and then opposite over hypotenuse. So now that we've got our general formula in there, we can fill it in with values from the question. So sine is going to stay the same, but our O value we're going to replace with the length of the opposite side, which is 13. And our H value we're going to replace with the length of the hypotenuse, which is 85. So now we've got our formula all filled in, all we have to do is rearrange until we find theta. So to do that, we need to move this sine function from the left-hand side of the equals, where it's next to the theta, over to the right-hand side of the equals so that we get theta on its own. So to do that, we're going to use inverse operations. And it's just like when you do rearranging equations with multiplication and division and addition and subtraction being inverse values. The inverse value of sine is called, funnily enough, inverse sine, and here it is down here on the floating menu. So what we want to do is move that sine function over to the right-hand side of the equals, and to do that we need to take the inverse sine of whatever is over on this side of the equals. Let me show you what I mean. Once that sine function is gone, all that's going to be left on the left-hand side is theta, so we'll pop that into the box. Then we'll put an inverse sine, and then a bracket, and then what's already on the right-hand side, which is 13, closing bracket, and 85. So what we're doing in this piece of maths is saying, okay, we're going to move the sine function from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, and to do that, we're going to use the inverse sine function over on the right-hand side of the equation. Then to find the final answer, all we have to do is evaluate. And to do that, we can use the calculator. 13 over 85 in a fraction is the same as 13 divided by 85 because this line in the fraction that separates the numerator from the denominator always means divided by. So if we put 13 divided by 85 into our calculator and then hit the inverse sine button, it will find the inverse sine of that value. So now we have our answer, and all we need to do to complete the question is to round it to one decimal place and put the answers into the answer box. So if we have a look at the second decimal place, we can see it's a 9, which is 5 or more, which means we need to round the first decimal place up by 1. So if we do that, we'll see that we'll have a value of 8.8 because we're rounding the 7 up to 8. And if we put 8.8 into the last three answer boxes, that completes the question.